2, a 3, 4.
Thank you, Senator Lesser.
Thank you so much, Farah, and thank you to Thank you to all of you. I stand in awe of the incredible disability advocates, the Wheelchair Coalition that has been pushing for your rights, pushing for fairness, pushing for common sense laws and protections in Connecticut. I first learned about this issue from my colleague, Representative Mike D'Amico, who we're going to hear from in a little bit. And what we heard Representative Gilchrist and I on the Human Services a couple years ago was really quite disturbing. What we heard was that the industry, the wheelchair industry, had been consolidated and that folks were waiting long times to get wheelchairs repaired. And it was a absolute moral outrage. We heard from a gentleman who had waited over 110 days to get his broken wheelchair fixed, and he had a job. And what kind of employer, how could anybody wait 110 days to get a wheelchair fixed if you need it to go to the grocery store, to go to the bathroom, to go around your house, and to get to work? And so last year, on a bipartisan basis, the legislature passed a first-of-the-nation law, first of its kind, to say that the wheelchair industry has to repair broken wheelchairs within 10 days. That law is making a real difference. We are making sure that we're addressing all aspects of the issue. We're addressing prior authorization. We're making sure that that's not a barrier for folks getting the wheelchairs that they need. We're putting real standards on the industry. We're making sure that we have a complaint hotline on the state level. We have done an awful lot to make sure that Connecticut is leading the path forward. But we have more work to do because we're not where we need to be. And so, with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Representative D'Amico to talk about the legislation we're talking about this year. Because we have two important bills that will make a real difference for wheelchair users this legislative session. Are you ready, Representative D'Amico? Okay.
I'm ready.
Go get him.
Okay, here we go. Hey, first of all, thank you all for being here. I just want you to know that your presence at the Capitol really has made a difference over the last couple of years. We have to deal, absolutely. We have to deal with so many issues throughout the state of Connecticut as legislators, and I'm really gratified that so many of my colleagues are here joining us today and joining us in this fight to make sure that people with disabilities are not forgotten and are not rendered as second-class citizens, which is what has happened to us for so long. Without casting aspersions, I will just tell you, I think that there are two types of people in the legislature. One type would like us to just go away and just quit being annoying. That's one group, but fortunately, that's a relatively small group. The much larger group among my colleagues are people who simply don't know about the issues and about the obstacles that all of you face in your daily lives. But what you have done is to educate little by little, month by month, year by year, educate my colleagues, our colleagues, as to the problems and ways that those problems can be solved. So you can congratulate yourselves, and you really should congratulate yourselves, that you have brought attention to your issues and have really made a difference. So we, as Senator Lesser pointed out a minute ago, we passed two significant pieces of legislation last year, one having to do with more timely repair of wheelchairs, and the other one having to do with medical diagnostic equipment being accessible to all. So both of those pieces of legislation need to go further. We need to make sure that the wheelchair legislation requires that the wheelchair vendors and the wheelchair manufacturers do what they are supposed to do and do it in a timely fashion. We need to make sure that the doctor's offices and the hospitals provide medical diagnostic equipment that is accessible to people. So both of these bills that passed last year, they were great victories, but they need to go further. And we have legislation that's already been introduced this year and has been voted on by the Human Services Committee that deals with wheelchairs. Unfortunately, the legislation dealing with medical diagnostic equipment did not get a public hearing and did not get dealt with by the Public Health Committee. And I give you my word that next year we will have a public hearing on that legislation and we will get that legislation through. So my final word to you is keep up the pressure, keep talking to your legislators, keep talking to your colleagues, keep talking to anyone who will listen to let them know that there is legislation pending, that there's legislation that needs to move forward, and that we are not going to quit. And as we said last year at the bill signing with the governor, we will be back. And if we have to come back every single month and every single year, we will be back. Thanks. I don't know who's next. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative D'Amico, for that amazing and empowering and energizing speech and for everything that you have done for us. In this room today, not necessarily speaking, but present with us and showing their support, we have other representatives. Would you please kindly identify yourself? Stand up, raise your hand. Heck yeah. Say your name. Say them loud. Who you got? One more time in the mic. Sorry about that.
Hey, I'm Representative Hughes on Human Services. Susan Johnson, Ken Ducker, Nick Gauthier, Sarah Kitt, Josh Elliott, Caitlin Shake. We're all here championing this legislation and equity, like you say, for all of us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
As you may know by now, those of you who have been here a while, when the bell rings, we have to go and vote. But most of us will come back. I will certainly come back, and I hope my colleagues will join me. So carry on. I'll be back. Okay.
Thank you all. Got some good people here, you guys. We're very fortunate.
My name is Maryann Amiro, and I am a resident of Wethersfield, Connecticut. I've been deeply involved with the wheelchair repair advocacy, and I currently serve as co-chair of the Wheelchair Repair Advisory Council. I'm grateful to the Human Services Committee for drafting our current law, PA 2458, which passed with strong bipartisan support, and for drafting the two current bills, which, if passed, will strengthen the law and provide further protections for the consumer. My two biggest concerns with the wheelchair law as it stands is the lack of enforcement and lack of communication of the law to wheelchair users. You do not need to be an expert in wheelchair repair to understand that there is no real incentive to follow a law that has no enforcement. Likewise, there is no recourse for a customer who has been harmed by non-compliance. We currently have a duopoly in Connecticut. Two companies, New Motion and National Seating and Mobility, have over 90% of the market share in Connecticut, and neither company will willingly inform their customers of their rights under Connecticut state law. They say that they're not required to, and that it's more important to focus on following the 10-day requirement, which is great, but knowledge is power, And without knowledge of the law, a customer can be easily manipulated by the companies to come into the shop when it's not safe or manageable, or accept a lengthy repair delay without knowing where to file a complaint, or even realizing that the repair is out of compliance. When I called New Motion for my last repair, I was not even offered the option for an in-home assessment. I was given only the next available in-shop appointment. I had to ask for and then insist upon an in-home appointment. I felt pressure to try to bring my chair to the shop, and had I not known about the law, I might have thought that was my only option. And as a side note, New Motion is not accessible to me. Our current law requires a wheelchair to be repaired in 10 business days, but back in the fall when my chair was shutting off intermittently due to a loose wire, it took a month for them to even come out to my home. During this time, my chair would shut off, leaving me stranded sometimes for hours. Some of the days I was completely bedridden and unable to take care of any of my personal needs safely. I was begging New Motion to come in to my home to send a tech. Instead, they chose to have a friend or family member fix the problem remotely. This was a long and tedious process, and it didn't really work, and it was a very long and stressful month. And I can only think that if we had enforcement to our wheelchair law, that none of this would have happened, and New Motion would have done much better to comply with the law. So to the legislators, I would like to say that we are still here, and while we have seen some improvements this year, we are still fighting for timely wheelchair repairs. I ask you to vote in favor of HB 7106, SB 1251, and help Connecticut continue to lead this country in wheelchair repair reform and disability justice. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Morgana. I had a car accident 28 years ago which resulted in a spinal cord injury. In the last 28 years, I've used a power wheelchair, power assist manual wheelchair, and currently a manual wheelchair. I'm a longtime disability advocate. I have been involved with the wheelchair repair issue from the very beginning. I participated in the wheelchair work group which transitioned into the wheelchair task force and currently serve on the wheelchair repair council that was formed last year. I use New Motion for my wheelchair repair needs. There's also a second company, currently known as National Seam Mobility. Ever since the private equity-controlled company New Motion has come into existence, customer service has dropped off a cliff and has not recovered. The discussions with the industry started around 2.5 years ago with the wheelchair work group. We told them then, and we continue to tell them now, they need to increase staffing levels. I don't know how many times this needs to be said. But I'll say it again, they need to increase staffing levels. They simply don't have enough technicians on the road doing in-home repairs. The industry has repeatedly given excuses that it's hard to find qualified candidates to hire or to pass background checks. I believe the starting hourly rate is being advertised around $21 an hour. People are getting paid equal or more to work at McDonald's. In my opinion, the industry is not being realistic in what they are offering for compensation. They are also having problems with turnover and losing existing staff to other companies offering better compensation. According to recent data reported to the Wheelchair Repair Council, both companies' compliance numbers have improved but still need to get better. Also, according to the companies, National Seam Mobility has twice as many technicians as New Motion. As far as personal story, I've had repairs done in the home several times since the new law went into effect. New Motion has been in non-compliance of the law every time. So for me, New Motion has a 0% compliance rate. I also have filed complaints with OHA. Just last week I needed a repair done, but when they showed up to my house, they didn't even have what they needed to fix my chair, a simple bolt. I then had to drive down to the shop to get my chair fixed. I can't help but feel New Motion has been manipulating wheelchair users by offering in-shop repairs in a much shorter time frame, within a week versus a month for an in-home appointment. Recently, a newsletter was sent out by New Motion telling the customers it is quicker to come into the shop to get repairs done. This is not new. New Motion has been using this tactic for a while to get consumers to come into the shop to get repairs done, although accurate, is an example of manipulation by the company to get consumers to come into the shop because it saves them money. Also, when you call customer service lines, the phone representative asks, when can you come into the shop to get a repair done? They actively ask you first and do not mention in-home repair in the beginning of the conversation. This, I believe, is a continuation of pressuring, manipulating, influencing consumers to come into the shop for repairs. The industry has come up against the wheelchair repair bills. They claim legislation isn't necessary and say that things are improving. Give us more time, we will get better, we promise. I've heard the same thing said for a long time now. I just don't believe them. I don't believe they will improve to the level required to come into compliance without the enhancement of the law passed last year. These bills will help improve current law in several ways, including enforcement mechanisms, informing consumers of their rights, and holding the industry accountable. I urge everyone to support the new wheelchair repair bills and continue what we started. The work is not done, but hopefully these bills will get us closer. Thank you.
As Mary's story illustrates, the challenges of being able to get transportation in for repairs, being able to trust that the companies providing care are being honest, are being truthful, and really have our interests at heart. These laws need to be passed in order to make sure that that is the case, and to help advocates like Mary, who would like to be here today, speaking in front of you, be able to do so again in the future on this issue and many others that affect the disability community.
Good afternoon, everybody. You heard the stories, and here's the data. Almost a year after the law was passed that required, among other things, that repairs be done in 10 business days, which, by the way, is a long time. That was a compromise. One of the companies has gotten pretty good. It's at 91% compliance for 10-day repairs in the home. The other one, New Motion, is still terrible. The data they reported to the Wheelchair Advisory Council last month was that 60% of the time they are complying. So 40% of the people are waiting over 10 business days. And by the way, that includes, there's a pause in the 10 days being counted when the company's waiting for parts not within their control. If there's prior authorization, waiting for that. So even after that, they get 10 business days. New Motion is out of compliance 40% of the time, according to the data they reported in March. They also routinely tell people on the phone, you should come into the shop, it'll be much faster. They tell them that because it's cheaper for them. And the only reason it's much faster in the shop is because their compliance in the home is so terrible. So, what's going to happen this year, we hope? 2 bills. One bill, both bills came out of the Human Services Committee, and we are grateful. Thank you. HB 7106 is the bulk of it, and it requires the people on Medicaid that transportation be provided with the broken wheelchair to the shop where it's actually necessary and desired, that annual preventative maintenance be paid for, just like on cars, so they don't break down, and that overnight delivery of parts be covered because that is needed for folks to get back on the road or get out of bed or whatever it is. Also, it provides that state employees who use wheelchairs will get the same benefits, right? And not be subject to prior authorization. And then the bulk of it is in Section 4, effective July 1st of this year. All authorized dealers must provide emergency repairs, including remotely where that's possible, when a wheelchair is completely inoperable on weekends and holidays. Dealers must notify consumers of their timely repair rights at the time of the sale and through annual mailings and newsletters, etc. They refuse to do this. They will not tell customers the basics of the law. Dealers must maintain enough staff and inventory to ensure timely and emergency service and the shipping options for overnight or express international delivery where necessary. The lack of staff is the primary problem here, and they don't want to hire enough staff because it takes from profits. The Office of the Healthcare Advocate has to launch a public awareness campaign about repair rights, as well as requiring the industry to tell people about it. Also, dealers must submit monthly reports on their performance data, including what their staffing levels are. The law as passed last year is great, but it's only one report annually, which is too infrequent to bring any accountability. And lastly, there's enforcement here, which is that the DSS commissioner, in the case of the Medicaid folks, may withhold or recover Medicaid payments from any dealer which meets the threshold for what's called systemic non-compliance with the 10-day requirement. And systemic non-compliance is defined as 95%. So that's HB 7106, which passed out of the Human Services Committee, and we're hoping it will be passed by the legislature. And the other bill is SB 1251, and this is a serious enforcement piece. Remember I said that under the other bill, there is enforcement possible for Medicaid folks, but that doesn't help people on Medicare, commercial insurance, we assume state employees, so we need some enforcement there. And this bill, in Section 4, there's other provisions in it, but Section 4 provides that a person who is having trouble accessing timely repair can go to court and seek relief against the company when there is that substantial non-compliance, meaning over 5% of the time they're not complied with the 10-day requirement. Thank you very much.
As we discussed at the very beginning, while wheelchair reform is utterly vital to the life, welfare, and mobility of all of us, or at least all of us wheelchair users, this is far from a single note issue and conference. This is an intersectional issue and an intersectional movement. And so I'm extremely proud and honored to get to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Doug Holcomb, the Executive Director of Greater Hartford Transport, to speak about Encompass. Doug, please join us.
Thank you. I'll be as loud as I can. My name is Doug Holcomb. I'm the Executive Director at Greater Hartford Transit, but I've been a long-time advocate for public transportation, particularly for seniors and people with disabilities, going back to 1991. And today I want to talk about, tell a story about our Encompass Transportation Program and what it's done in the Capital Region, along with our appeal to have it incorporated into the binding budget being considered right now. Whenever we talk about issues like housing or education, jobs, healthcare, always, especially in our community, transportation is out there as a barrier. Always it comes up as a barrier. So how do we close those gaps? How do we identify the gaps for mobility, and how do we close them? Fixed route bus service doesn't work all the time. Even paratransit doesn't work all the time. But in our organization, we have 4 services that we're using to close those gaps in the Capital Region. One is the New Freedom, or the Freedom Ride program, which is a taxi voucher program. Another is an extraordinarily busy ADA paratransit service, second only to the T in the Northeast in the number of trips that it provides. The third one is a very successful microtransit program, one of the 9 that the state approved and the governor approved, the General Assembly last year. It's grown from 30 trips a month to 2,300 in its first 12 months, and that's continuing to grow. But the one I want to talk about today is the Encompass program, because this is a model worthy of preserving. It is a door-to-door service that we do in partnership with a private Connecticut company, taxi company called M7. And when it started, it was initiated under a federal discretionary grant, a Mobility on Demand grant. It began in 2020, and in its first months had 30 trips and grew to 4,200 trips a month in October of last year, where we had to cap it or the funding would run out. So this is not a service that had its funding withdrawn. It is simply a very successful pilot project that because it is a service that transcends the characteristics of a typical door-to-door. And when I say that, what I mean is there are things about the other services, door-to-door services, that don't really meet the needs of our riders. Encompass tries to address those. One, it is available 7 days a week. every day, all year. It's available 24 hours a day. There's no limit on the trip purpose. No, it doesn't matter what the trip purpose is for. There's no geographic limitation. I can explain that a little bit later. And it has same-day service. All of these things are gaps in mobility well known to our riders, well known to us, or any of the people that take care of or work with our riders. So this service will end this summer. The federal funding that was invested in it will expire. Its initial term will expire, so our appeal is, and we've been working since last summer to try to have some funding incorporated into the budget to allow us to continue the Encompass program and to consider its application elsewhere, other parts of the state. I mean, I know it sounds corny, but kind of we crossed the diamond with the pearl on this, and I think a lot of people use it, and we really want to continue. It's a model worthy of further exploration, and if we incorporate it, the people who have been benefiting from it, and there are now 2,000 registered people, they'll be able to continue, and there'll be others who can benefit from it. So, thank you.
Being discontinued, my world got a whole lot smaller. I think most people can relate. Perhaps your car broke down and suddenly you have limited access to transportation. This is a very stressful situation and you're stripped of the freedom and independence that you're used to experiencing. Encompass is unique from other paratransit services because, as Doug mentioned, it offers same-day service, travel outside the Hartford area, and more flexible scheduling options. Currently, they're limiting the number of rides per day in order to keep the program running through June, and we are feeling its effects. In the past month, a friend of mine needed to go to the ER, but did not have access to same-day travel, and so she needed to either take an ambulance or wait the next day. Another friend of mine had a family member pass away. I couldn't go to the funeral because I did not have access to get to her area, and also my doctor is outside of the Hartford area, and I don't know what we're going to do if this program dies. These are necessities, though, and Encompass has afforded us better freedoms and independence to leave the confines of our home and enjoy life. I can be more spontaneous in my usually regimented day, and I can go to a movie, I can go to museums, go out and meet friends. Encompass has allowed me to watch my nieces play field hockey and soccer games. I've been able to attend their school functions. I've been able to even go down to the beach. These things should not be considered to be luxuries. Most people can experience this on a regular basis, but these are the experiences that we are in danger of losing. And for people in powered wheelchairs, we don't have other options available to us. I'm going to read a statement from an Encompass user who's not able to be with us today due to transportation issues. And I do want to acknowledge people who are not able to make it here today because of transportation, because of their disabilities, illness, injuries, broken equipment, things that disabled people have to deal with on a regular basis. Okay, so here's Dana's statement. My name is Dana Canavari. I am a 51-year-old woman with cerebral palsy. I currently use a walker as my primary mobility device, and I do not drive. I am extremely active in the community. I attend the Center for Independent Living. I act in a local theater troupe. I attend social club for people with mental illness, participate in adaptive sports. I dance at the Guilford Art Festival the year I turned 50, and I consider myself an active member of society. I use Encompass for many of these activities, plus doctor visits, nail appointments, and dinner with friends. Encompass has opened up my world. It has allowed me to do more things and keep my health up. Recently, I used them to go to Gaylord Hospital for a wheelchair evaluation because my mobility is getting worse, and my ride transportation service no longer goes there. To me, accessible, affordable transportation should be a right and not something we have to fight for. Please keep the Encompass program alive so that we can continue to access the world around us, just like everyone else. And I spoke to Dana yesterday, and she wanted me to add that we are disabled people. We are valid and valuable members of society, and when cutting programs like Encompass, we are being told that we are invalid, we are invalids. She says we are supposed to have a right to access to our communities, and when that right to access our communities is taken away from us, is very, very wrong. So please support disability justice and support the Encompass program. Thank you.
The mic back to our wonderful attorney, Sheldon Taubman, to talk about the importance of Husky Part C.
Sorry, I'm back again. Yes, this is another matter of disability justice denied. In Connecticut, we're very proud of the Medicaid program. I think everybody is. I think the legislators are, the governor is, policymakers, providers, advocates, consumers. We have a great Medicaid program. But unfortunately, baked into that program is invidious discrimination, expressly against people with disabilities. And what I mean by this, if you look at the three big Medicaid programs, full benefit programs, called Husky A, C, and D. Husky C has a much lower income limit than either Husky A or D. The income limit for Husky A or D adults is $1,800 a month. If you're disabled, you're on Husky C, and your income limit is only $1,370. In addition, only Husky C has an asset limit, meaning you can only have so much in savings. And the amount of savings you can have is abysmal. It's $1,600 or $2,400 for a couple. So there's an express discrimination on the basis of disability in terms of access to essential health care under the Medicaid program, which of course is even more important for people with disabilities than the general population. So this outrage has been brought to the attention of legislators and the governor for several years now. And 2 years ago, part of it was addressed. The legislature passed the law which ended the discrimination in income eligibility and in fact set the income limit a little higher for people with disabilities and older adults under Husky C than the other parts of the Medicaid program. But last year, the governor urged that the ending of discrimination be repealed, meaning the governor urged that discrimination against people with disabilities be reinstated. And that was despite a letter that was sent to him in December of 23 that said discrimination on the basis of disability violates the state equal protection clause, which protects people based on physical or mental disability. We wrote to the governor in December of 23 saying, stop the discrimination on assets as well, but thank you for fixing the income discrimination problem. We then learned that the governor was pushing to repeal that ending of discrimination. We wrote to legislative leaders in April of 24 last year saying, don't reinstate the discrimination. The result of that, though, because of the governor's insistence on adherence to the fiscal guardrails, is that the repeal was passed. Discrimination on the basis of disability in terms of income eligibility for Medicaid was reinstated. This year, the Human Services Committee, thank you, introduced a bill to address the asset discrimination, not the income discrimination, although it would be over 4 years to finally get rid of the asset limit. And advocates urged that the bill be amended to undo the undoing, right? To end the discrimination on the basis of income eligibility for people with disabilities. That did not happen. And the bill that came out of Human Services to address the asset limit discrimination that we were all supportive of did not get funded in the Appropriations Committee budget. And we believe that is because of the fiscal guardrails, and that's despite we just reported that Connecticut has a massive surplus. In fact, this year it has the largest surplus, with one exception, ever. And yet they can't come finally ending discrimination against people with disabilities. And today, we're also blessed to have legislators with us who agree with us on this. Thank you very much. And I believe Representative Lucy Dathan, Vice Chair of Human Services, is one of the people who are going to speak about it today. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you to Sheldon. He's been an incredible, tireless advocate for this community. And I am glad to see you all here today, but I am saddened that we are here yet again talking about increasing Husky C. It is something we addressed in our 2023 5001 bill. We were looking at ensuring that people did not fall through the cracks. This discrepancy within Husky C is making people fall through the cracks, and we have to let that go away. It is essential to look at how we are calculating this, because we are getting very large fiscal notes for expanding this services, and I am committed to resolving how we can look at the cost, how we can think about how we can fund this with, either our surpluses or within other programming. We need to also make sure that we are estimating this appropriately. When you look at other states and you're looking at the phasing out of the assets, it is not as expensive as we are estimating. And I do believe that we need to narrow down those estimates and kind of figure out how we can get this to work. Because I truly believe we can get this to work. It may take time. I would love it to be all fixed this year and us to be on parity with the other Husky programs. But if it takes a few years for us to phase in, I am happy with that result because I am committed to us getting there. So I appreciate everyone coming out and showing what is important, important to you as a member of the disability community, and how we as your allies here in the Human Services Committee and in the legislature can support you either with wheelchairs, with transportation aspects, and finally ending this disparity that we see in Husky C. So thank you so much, and I appreciate the
Thank you so very much. Healthcare is one of the most important issues out there. It affects all of us, and to tie into to talking about healthcare, we have two of the most wonderful advocates that I have had the pleasure of working with that are going to share a bit about accessible medical diagnostic equipment and what happens when bills don't get passed. So if I can hand the mic off to Ruth Groby and Suzanne Groffin. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Farah.
Certainly so sorry.
That's okay. Just as the Wheelchair Reform Coalition started to address the problems with wheelchair repair back in the 2024 session of the General Assembly, the Citizens Coalition for Equal Access made a similar attempt to address problems with healthcare accessibility. As Mike D'Amico told you earlier, the legislators in 2024 passed Public Act 24-113, but just as with the wheelchair repair legislation, the bill had very weak enforcement procedures. Over the past year, even though our advocates have been trying to work with the Department of Public Health, it appears as though the medical community has not done much to comply with the initial provisions that went into effect last year in order to prepare for the acquisition of accessible medical diagnostic equipment starting in January of next year. In the current to address the enforcement issue, just as SB 1251 is trying to address the enforcement issue for wheelchair repair times. He sponsored a bill that never made it out of committee. We had a similar problem with HB 6563, which sought to complement Public Act 24-113 by addressing the provision of mechanical lifts in all medical facilities. Healthcare accessibility for people with physical disabilities is by no means the only important disability issue to go unaddressed in the current session. We need our legislators to heed the voices of the disability community, and I would like to introduce Suzanne Garaffa, an advocate who has been working on healthcare accessibility since she sponsored a petition to Hartford Hospital as far back as 2021. Suzanne is here to talk about how her health is being profoundly affected by our society's disregard for people with disabilities.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Colón. I belong to the biggest hospital in the state of Connecticut. They do not have wheelchair scales when we go to doctor's appointments. They keep building and building and building, but they forget about us. I'm tired of being ignored. The disability community does not need this. If you don't pass or think about us, think about the people that we are losing. Every day we lose a person because you can't get waived, you can't get checked out by the doctor, you can't do anything. The tables don't rise. So, I'm telling you as a person, as a disability, please don't let this die. It died already, let it pass again next year. Don't forget us. We do need a lot. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Short, and I've been a long-time wheelchair user because of a spinal cord injury in 2002. I'm a disability advocate, a full-time employee, a parent, a member of the Wheelchair Advisory Committee, and I rely on a power wheelchair for my mobility and independence. National Seating and Mobility and New Motion are the only two companies in Connecticut that sell and repair customized wheelchairs that myself and 5,000 other wheelchair users rely on. Both New Motion and National Seating and Mobility have a terrible record for delayed repairs, often making people wait months for a wheelchair repair until a bill was passed last year regarding timely wheelchair repairs. National Seating and Mobility has done an exceptional job at trying to comply with the new law that requires 10 business days to fix a wheelchair, not including prior authorization and delivery of parts. Unfortunately, New Motion has not taken the same necessary steps to reduce their long wait times and still remain well beyond compliance with the new law passed last year, simply because they do not have enough technicians. They currently have less than half the technicians that National Seating and Mobility have, and are trying to recruit new qualified employees with pay that's only slightly above minimum wage. New Motion is the provider that repairs my wheelchair, and many times I've been without a working chair for months. They pressure you to get repairs completed at a facility because it can be done considerably faster, but this isn't an option that works for anyone who doesn't have transportation to Rocky Hill or someone that cannot transfer out of their wheelchair on their own. In my experience, when I've needed actual emergency service and was stuck driving my vehicle from a wheelchair that did not work, New Motion could not provide technicians and wanted to schedule me for other days. I recently had drive motors replaced, and New Motion put ones that were defective on. after only a day. Thankfully, I was able to borrow a friend's wheelchair while I waited another month for them to show up with the right parts. When you're using someone else's equipment or broken equipment, it can cause pain, skin breakdown, pressure sores, and limit your abilities, all of which I've experienced from extended wait times and repairs. The new law will require these two companies to continue reporting monthly data on compliance rates and require that all wheelchair users are notified about their rights to receive timely repairs within 10 business days and where to file a complaint with OHA when their repairs are not within compliance. This new law will hold these two private equity companies more accountable and hopefully stop them from putting profit over the lives and independence of wheelchair users in Connecticut. Thank you very much. Mic drop.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for sharing your story. To close us out today, I am so honored to get to introduce one of my friends, one of my colleagues, the former chair of the Connecticut Wheelchair Reform Coalition. You know him, you love him. Jonathan Sigworth. Jonathan, where are you? You're very welcome. Thank you. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. I'll keep this short and to the point. I'd like to share a message to our neighbors, to our legislators, and to our governor, and that is that people are surprised. They are surprised when they find out that their insurance will cover the cost of an ambulance to take them to a hospital when they break their leg. But when they become a wheelchair user, their insurance will not cover the cost to bring them to a wheelchair repair shop when their wheelchair breaks down completely. People are surprised when their neighbor is on Medicaid just like them. But because their neighbor is in a wheelchair, their neighbor can't save, can't earn as much as they can. People are surprised about these things because we expect our laws to be just. And this dismissive difference in how we treat each other, whether based on disability or anything else, on who you love, your religion, your nationality, what language you speak, these are acts of injustice. Now listen, Connecticut is where we live. Connecticut is our home. That makes us neighbors. That makes us family. And we don't need to like each other. We don't need to agree with each other. But our laws should not care about any of that. Our laws should reflect our commitment to take care of each other, no matter what our differences may be. And if we can't do that, then we are choosing to make Connecticut a land not of neighbors, not of family, but of strangers. But if we act now, tomorrow, and at every opportunity we have to stand up for things like disability justice, as our legislators are who've been here today, Senator Lesser, Representatives Gucker, Gauthier, Hugh, Menace, Dathan, Keat, and D'Amico, if we can all stand up for disability justice like they have shown boldly today, then Connecticut truly can feel like the great home we believe it is and can be. Thank you.
There's no topping that. Thank you all for being here today. Please, legislators, vote, pass, raise these disability rights bills.
You know what we need to do.
Do the thing. Do the thing. Let's go.